What's up, Sense Squad? Welcome back to another Brawl Stars video. Today is going to be a Brock guide, and specifically focusing on Brock's super and how it works. So I'm going to explain to you exactly how to maximize the damage from your super and maximize your chances of hitting that maximum damage from your super. So it's going to be super helpful if you stick around until the end of the video, and your Brock skills are probably going to go up significantly just because you know more about his super, which is one of his most powerful aspects. So let's start by going over the pattern of his super. So he shoots a volley of 9 rockets, and they always land in the exact same order every time. So the first one always lands in the center, then the next rocket lands in the upper left, then the upper right, and then it's sort of a zigzag, starting bottom left, bottom right, center, upper left, upper right, and then it sort of restarts the zigzag. But since there's only one more rocket, it just has that one rocket in the bottom left, and that's it. Those are the 9 rockets, and they'll always land in that same order. So I wanted to see if these rockets were actually hitting the exact same spots each time, and not just a slight bit of variance within those center and bottom left locations that I was talking about. So I basically recorded his super and took a screenshot every time a rocket landed, and then I overlaid them all on top of each other with some spicy photo editing software, and this was the result. So you can see that the 2 rockets that hit like in the bottom left and in the center, basically in every location, they're not exactly in the same spot, and they are spread apart a bit. And I did this for a couple other supers, and it turns out that this spread is also the exact same. So Supercell has programmed it so that the rockets land in this exact position, even though it looks like it's a bit random within those separate groups. The rockets that are landing in the center, in the bottom left, top right, all those things, their position is actually completely fixed, and there's no variation in this whatsoever. And on top of that, no matter which direction you're aiming the super in, the rockets will always be positioned in the same order. So even if you're aiming backwards, the rockets won't be flipped. It'll start with that center rocket, and then the next rocket will be closer to the top of your screen, even though you're facing in the opposite direction. So this makes it really easy to predict where your rockets are gonna land if you know how this pattern works. So now I wanted to figure out what is the easiest way to hit as many rockets as possible. So to do this, I needed a more concrete diagram that shows all these hitboxes from above, so that way they're actual circles rather than ellipses, and they're a lot easier to work with that way. So on the image, with all of the 9 rocket radii outlined, I drew a couple lines across the aiming circle so I could see some critical points that I could use to help create this diagram. And so back to my trusty image editing software, and I created this scale diagram from all the things that I measured in the previous images, and it becomes a lot more clear now where the best and worst places to aim are going to be. So I'm going to use the Heist Safe's hitbox for reference, which is about the same hitbox as any normal player, and it's actually slightly smaller than the hitbox of one of Brock's rockets. And I can place that blue circle that I'm using to represent that Heist Safe in the top portion of this diagram and in the left portion of this diagram, and in both of those positions you can see that it overlaps with 6 different circles, which are the rockets that are going to be landing. So that means on a Heist Safe you can hit 6 rockets with a single super, which is over 8,700 damage. So that's insanely useful, but you have to make sure that the Heist Safe is aimed in one of those particular positions. There's not too much room for error, although it is a bit more forgiving than some other cheesy tricks like using Spike to get 5,000 damage per shot on the safe. This is definitely a bit more forgiving than that, but it is still slightly difficult, so you do have to get used to it by practicing with it. But you can see that I've also included the center of the circle in this diagram with that big black dot, so you can sort of see where the Heist Safe needs to be relative to where you're aiming and where the center of your aiming circle is. Now you might be wondering why I didn't put any blue circles in the right portion or the bottom portion, and that's because the bottom right area only has 1 rocket that lands in it, because there's 5 areas and only 9 rockets instead of 10 rockets. That means one area only gets 1 rocket, and it is unfortunately that bottom right area. So you never want to aim on something near that bottom right portion of your super, because there's going to be less damage flying towards that direction. So if you do really want to maximize your damage, you are going to have to put your target in the upper area of your aiming circle or towards the left area. And now this means that if you're playing Brock on Heist and you want to get the maximum damage possible with your super, you want to come at it from the right or from the center, because if you were to come at it from the left, you would have to get physically closer to the safe if you wanted to get it in the right position to hit 6 rockets. So if you come from the middle or the right, you're going to be able to aim from farther away, which means it's going to be a lot easier to consistently hit those 6 rockets, the max damage possible from your super. And now you might be thinking, what happens if I just auto aim the super? Will that get the damage I'm looking for? And definitely it will not. Auto aiming with Brock's super only lands you 2 rockets, which is extremely low compared to the maximum amount of damage that you can do, and it's a huge waste of a super if you're just going to auto aim it on something like a heist safe or the Ike turret in Siege. So always manually aim your super and make sure you get that target in the upper portion or the left portion of your attack, and that's going to do the maximum possible damage. And if you're not attacking a stationary target and you're attacking things that are moving just like other players in any mode other than heist or Siege, then it's really important to know that pattern of rockets like I was talking about before, and hopefully predict which ones are going to land first, so which ones are going to be more likely to hit your opponents depending on which way they're walking. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you want to join the Sen Squad, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and go into your settings and enable notifications there as well. But that's all for today, guys, so see you later.